A very good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining our ICFAI's Wise Views interactive webinar series this Friday. We have yet another distinguished guest, Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, speaking on the reflections of a tech entrepreneur. We are excited and we are honored to have Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu. I will now take a moment to introduce the esteemed guest with us. I also welcome Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mohan Reddy Garu, and the entire team at the ICFAI Foundation for Higher Education. We have Professor R. Prasad, who is the Director for Academic Wing. I welcome Professor Prasad as well, and all other esteemed colleagues who have joined. This is the topic for the day, as I mentioned, reflections of a technology entrepreneur. And we are very thankful to Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu for agreeing to speak in our webinar. The agenda will be, sir, 30 minutes will be a talk delivered by yourself, followed by another 30 minutes roughly, or a little more, in the Q&A session moderated by Professor R. Prasad and I. These questions are picked up at the time of registrations by all the participants who have keyed in their questions, and some of the questions will also be picked up during the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, a small intro for a big profile of Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu.
Kindly make it as short as you can, Mr. Sudhakar Rao. Thank you.
Dr. Reddy holds an undergrad degree from JNTU Kakinada and then the PG degrees from IIT Kanpur and University of Michigan. And he also received 4 honorary doctorates. Dr. Reddy is the founder chairman of Cyient Ltd. As you know, he established Cyient in the early 90s, which contributes now more than $5 billion cumulative exports from India to the global clients, including the Fortune 100 companies, and also led to the creation of many jobs for engineering professionals across 14 countries. He served as the chairman of NASSCOM during 2015 and 16 and served as the chairman of CII Southern Region 2008 and 2009, and currently he is the chairman of CII Education Council. Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy is also the founding director of T-Hub, the popular and the largest startup incubation center in the country. He is currently the chairman of the board of governors of the prestigious IIT Hyderabad and IIT Roorkee. Very happy to say that he is also a member of the leadership advisory board at the University of Michigan College of Engineering, USA, and a member of the Court of Governors of ASCII. Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy has chaired the Evaluation Committee of Atal Ranking of Institutions of Innovation Achievements 2019, which is constituted by Ministry of HRD. Very happy to share with you, Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu received India's 4th highest civilian award, the Padma Shri, in 2017 for his outstanding contribution to trade and industry. He is the recipient of Distinguished Leadership Award of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, CIE Division. He was conferred Lifetime Achievement Awards from HMA, HIC, and COD. He is also received the Distinguished Alumnus Award from IIT Kanpur and is a fellow of Institution of Engineers. So with this brief introduction, I request our esteemed guest, Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu, to start his talk. Ladies and gentlemen, mute all your microphones and listen to Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu. And over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhakar Rao. You've been very kind and generous with your introduction. Thank you. Professor Mohan Reddy, Professor Prasad, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. At the outset, let me thank ICFAI Education Foundation for inviting me for this talk this evening. As Mr. Sudhakar Rao mentioned, I decided to talk about my entrepreneurial journey, but give you more perspective from technology entrepreneurship, as opposed to what entrepreneurship is all about. So therefore, you'll see a larger flavor into technology this evening. I will try my best to finish off the presentation in about half an hour. I have about a set of 16 slides with me, well, 14 slides, I guess. I'll probably finish them off as soon as we can so that, we'll have more amount of interactive conversation. And I'll continue in this particular mode, Mr. Sudhakar Rao?
Yeah, perfect, sir.
Okay, great. So therefore, what I titled my comments for you this evening as reflections of a technology entrepreneur, building a sustainable company. It's sustainable because it's 30 years old. It's still profitable. It is growing. It's healthy in many ways. We'll come to that. So therefore, I will reflect back into say how a sustainable company can be built. Let me move forward and say, what is the current situation with technology? And many people believe that there is enormous amount of change in technology. There's an acceleration in technology which has never been experienced by mankind so far. And several people, it's all to do with computers, but it's just not computers. It's computers connectivity, and it goes much beyond that. You're seeing that there is fundamental substances, changes that are being incorporated by technology, whether it's next generation genomics, biotechnology, and fairly large amount of advanced materials, nanomaterial work that's being done right now. We're also seeing a tremendous amount of progress in automation, and so also in energy. So I won't get into all of these, but let's look at the first one. That's with the connectivity at this point of time. I think if you see, there are four forces which are at play in this technology today. One is the way in which the computers are progressing. Computers and storage, I probably combine them together. Moore's law says, that was said in 1976, that the power of computers will double itself every 18 months. The cost of computers will half themselves, and also the size of them, the computers will become half. It's probably taking less than 18 months that to happen. That's the power of computing that continues to be there. But interestingly, we also have seen the power of connectivity. In the past, people said, you talk to each other. That's the connectivity. I talk to you, you talk to me. But now it's no longer that part of it. We also have things talking to you. That's probably called the Internet of Things, where you have physical cyber connectivity. That's basically, I'm actually not talking to you in person right now. I'm talking to a camera and an audio system that gets transmitted down to you. My video images are being transmitted to you. If there's shortage of milk in my refrigerator, I'm getting an alarm on my mobile phone. So therefore, they're all devices, things that are talking to you. And the power of this connectivity is enormous at this point, because the reason being that there are 7 billion people around the world, out of which 5 billion people are connected. But there are 15 billion things, which means that we have 20 billion things which are talking to each other or communicating to each other. So the end result, what we are seeing is the power of this connectivity has gone exponentially. We keep saying it's now n to the power of 20 to the power of a billion. That's the power of connectivity that's there, power of this network. And the other third thing that we are seeing as a major transition is that God gave us 5 senses. Our ability to feel, our ability to see, our ability to hear, our ability to smell, and our ability to taste. Trust me, all these 5 senses the computers can do today. And actually, except that, there may not be many applications on tasting, but otherwise, we have tremendous amount of applications. I have an application which is to do with energy signatures, how energy is being consumed on a power line, who is consuming power at this point of time can be determined. That's the sensitivity sensors that are there, which can detect them. So these sensors, which are very ugly looking devices, which now also have become miniaturized. They've now put out trillions of data, and that data is now become the new gold, or the new oil as it's called. And as a result, that data, if you start mining it using artificial intelligence and data sciences, you get the ability to take instantaneous real-time decisions. If you now connect the connectivity and also this data AI intelligence, enormity is the type of applications that you can think about. Let's move on. And if you look at these 4 or 5 new technologies, which we call them as the future technologies, we called 8 of them out. We actually are doing a fairly large amount of work. When I say we, on behalf of NASSCOM, I drove this initiative. 2018 is when we launched this particular platform called Future Skills. But if you look at these future skills, just as an example, their ability at this point of time to be all pervasive in every possible application you can think about. I keep saying human imagination is the only limitation in terms of applying these technologies. I never imagined that we will use a technology in agriculture. But today I can fly a drone on a farm. And as a result of that, I can now find out 64 different characteristics of the crop or the soil or the humidity, all of these. And end result is, this is just by flying a drone. And what does the drone have? It has a camera into it. It has so therefore it's taking pictures. That pictures are coming back as digital data. And we do analytics on top of it and decipher it to find out every possible detail, as I said, about the crop, about the soil, about the water, every possible thing you can think about. And thereafter, if you say there is a pest in 1 square meter of that particular farm, which could be, say, 10 hectares, what farmer did, once he detected a pest somewhere, he went and sprayed pesticide all over. But I can now fly yet another drone at the back end, which just goes and sprays the pesticide just in that 1 square meter of area. Look at the power of technology. I can give you n number of examples where people have not in a position to imagine in the past. Come back to education. We're now talking about individual learning paths. That's primarily, if you look at even online education, you get to one more level of variant of that, is that all students are not alike. The ability of student to grasp is far different from one to the other. The only way we'll be in a position to cater to every student and not just the front benchers is making sure we create individual learning paths for them. So that is what the technology is doing. So as a result of this technology play in every possible area, what is happening today? So look at the exponential growth of technology companies around the world. This is the market cap as of day before yesterday. I thought I was looking at this on today is what, Friday, Wednesday this week. And what's the market cap of the top 10 companies? I picked up the top 10. That's one which you see the bar diagram on the right-hand side. Apple has $2.4 trillion. Microsoft has $2.1 trillion. And finally, the bottommost one, the 10th largest one is Tencent, which has a $500 billion of market cap, 573 billion as it was day before yesterday. But did you recognize one other thing? Out of this 10, how many of them are technology companies? There are 9 out of the 10. If at all, if there's 8 out of the 10. If at all there is a fallout from there, the third one, I'm sure if you don't read it, my apologies, that's Saudi Aramco. And the one which is on the 8th slot is Berkshire Hathaway. Except for those, all others, whether it is Alphabet, which is Google, or it is Facebook, or it's Amazon, it's all technology companies. That's how the technology is playing a role in our lives. The second thing is, you see the disruptors that are coming in. You look at Netflix did not exist 10 years back. Today, all our lives is dependent on Netflix. And so is, our ability to do e-commerce. Or right now, I asked them, do we use a YouTube channel? And we are using right now. So these were not in existence 10 years back. And these are all bubbling up. And why are they bubbling up? Is because the technology provides them a path to bubble up. It is not the end of it. It will probably just the beginning of it in our perspective. And you look at even a car, an automobile, and you see the logo, I'm sure if you recognize, sorry, again, it's a small slide, small picture rather. It is Tesla is there. And what is Tesla? Tesla is not an automobile. It's actually a platform where people can move around. It's a moving platform where mobility becomes the key. It's a mobile platform. That's what it is. I'm a mechanical engineer by training. I learned all about, internal combustion engine, the power plant within an automobile. I learned all about differential, which makes sure that the inner wheels of a car are moving slower compared to the outer wheels. And I also learned all about something called the rack and pinion arrangement, which is to do with the movement of a steering wheel, which is a rotary movement, thereafter becomes lateral movement with the wheels. Where are they now in Tesla? They don't appear anymore. Even where is the power plant? It's nothing but a battery. Where is the battery? Battery is nothing but the floor plate. They're energizing the floor plate to get the energy across to all the 4 motors, which are driving the 4 wheels. And there are several other motors, all right. So therefore, the power of the technology is not just here, it's continued to be there. It becomes much, much bigger. The last thing I wanted to call out is the average lifespan of companies is also decreasing dramatically. In the early part of 20th century, in 1915, I believe, I'm sorry, again, it's a fairly small slide there, is that it was about 90 years. It slowly started coming down. Every 20, 30 years, we took the check on it. From 90 years, it became 45 to 26 years in 1975, down to about 1995 to 19 years. And currently, the average lifespan of companies is 14 years. So it's a struggle, existential struggle for companies, unless you use technologies. So what I will talk to you as we move forward is that how do you differentiate yourself? How do you create winning teams? And how innovation would play a very important role in this disrupting technology innovating world? And what is customer centricity all about? And finally, about the courageous leadership. The first and the foremost, when we created this company called Infotech Enterprises, which has now morphed itself as Cyient, that's a rebranding that we did. The original intent was to provide technology services. That is, if you see this particular slide chart here, you'll see on the x-axis product service value chain, and on the y-axis you have offering value and maturity. So what we started doing was at the bottom of this left corner, that has to do with engineering. We said we'll provide services which are to do with engineering services and network design services, including a network design, a very rudimentary application that we did, which actually with which we built this company, was digitization services. We took maps to convert them into digital format. Everybody says world is becoming digital. We started this service offering 30 years back. And thereafter slowly moved, it was still services that were there. We moved to the right, which is basically from design, we started building them. That's, from a blueprint people gave us, we could build, basically you can call it manufacturing, but we call it as build, and we also provided field services. What the products that we had, we designed and built for our customers, we went ahead and did aftermarket services. But the ambition right now is that you need to constantly differentiate. If you are standstill even momentarily, people will become competitors to you. So how do we differentiate further? Here is you start moving to the top. You start seeing from services, the company has migrated to more amount of solutions. What are the solutions that we do? The service offering we have ability to design, we have build and maintain. Actually, if you look at Atmanirbhar Bharat, that's what we have propagating to Indian government too. And I think they're listening to us. Originally, Make in India it was. Make in India is just manufacturing in India. No, to us, Make in India is you got to design, engineer, sorry, I'll take it back. It has to be innovate, design, engineer, manufacture, and support the products. And that's what we do as one of the propositions. And that is where you see that you have a product here on the right-hand side, which is called a software-defined radio, which is completely IP by us. So look at a company which started as digitization as services, today can build a leading edge product in defining radios with software and with an IP which is all owned by an Indian company. That's, to me, the differentiation. So we also do a fairly large number of other things. And let me just call out the last one, is that what is called as an IntelliSign is that we now have 6 digital solutions from asset management to smart factory. That's the platform we provide to our customers. Or one other one, the number 2 that I also like to call out, that actually is a clinical analyzer. It's an RT-PCR test kit, test system that we built for one of our customers. Part of the design was done by us and we built it. So the messaging I have, the first one is that if you want to build a successful company, you have to start with a differentiation, but you need to continuously change to make sure that you are distinctively different from others. The second one is that you have to continuously excel. It is not any longer that at a point of time, you're the best. No, it is not good enough. And that is how we scaled the company to what we call it as the PPT strategy. Very important, it's called dot PPD. At the center of the dot is nothing but the C, which is a customer. And people will remember PPT because that's the PowerPoint extension. But to us, the PPT is people, processes, tools, technology, and training. Our ability to recruit people, retain people, reward people, and retrain people helped us in terms of building this organization. Certainly, I want to call out that we recruit people. Largely, people say, oh no, this guy has exceptional experience. He has exceptional talent. But to us, equally important is the shared values we have, which we call it as values first, FIRST. Fairness, respect, sincerity, integrity, and trust, or transparency, either way you can call it. So therefore, I think what organizations can be built is by continuously excelling themselves, but having a foundation of values on which you build people who have excellence in them. We also continue to do the innovation through a process and product innovation, a continuous improvement that has to happen. We've developed standard operating procedures. We did innovation in a big way. I'll come to you in a minute. That's what is important. That's how you bring distinctive differentiation. I keep saying, where does this differentiation come from? It doesn't come from one leader. It comes from the people. So people become very important. Who innovates things? It's not a machine innovates things. Technology is the beauty of the technology is technology doesn't require large amount of assets. What it requires is primarily people. Outstanding people, smart people, but with the right values. And that is what we have brought together in making sure innovation also happens in this organization. And equally important is in a economy that we live, which is driven by knowledge, you got to have knowledge management. I keep saying you can make mistake once, you are pardoned. You can never make it for the second time, for the simple reason that the knowledge management system should have taught you saying that you can't make this mistake any longer. We have quality management systems. And the third element to it is our ability to deploy, again, technology within our organization. We work in technology, but we also deploy technology within the company. Because today's world, unless you have a fairly good amount of technology deployment, which will lead into automation, you can never be competitive. Because that is how, if you have a competitive environment, you have to be best. That's only when the customer would definitely give you an opportunity. So we built very robust, flexible, modular, global infrastructure. So the second thing that we have done in terms of building a successful company is to put a framework for the company to continuously excel itself. Let me move on. What I said earlier is people become very important. We don't actually call them as employees in the company. That's a bad word in our world. They're all our associates. And these associates thrive with the vision that we laid out for the company of designing tomorrow together. We actually design, that's basically design products, we design services, we have business models, all those we design for tomorrow. That's tomorrow is not just tomorrow, tomorrow never comes, which basically for future. We are futuristic looking together. And then the third one, it says together. Together is we work between people, we work with our customers, we work with our suppliers, we work with our partners, the whole ecosystem. And actually, if you look at it, we really focus in terms of getting the right people and making sure that these people grow. At the entry level, we have seen 80% of the people grow to their potential. They're all recruited for their potential, not for what they are at that point of time. And we thereafter are putting together a fairly intense learning and development scheme for people to continuously learn. I talked about the future learning skills, the 8 skills I called out, whether it is artificial intelligence, machine learning, AR, VR, 3D printing, and so on and so forth. And we make sure that there's all these people have an access on demand learning. There's a client requirement which we can get them trained in 15 days. Not that only for client requirement that's being done. We, at this point of time, it had to be a lot more proactive. So therefore, we are creating pools of people who have all these skills, the digital skills, to provide solutions to the customers. And equally important, when you build an organization which is about 14,000 people strong right now, you need to have leaders. It can't be one leader who drives this. So therefore, every possible opportunity, we build leadership in the organization. And equally important, I'm a very strong believer, and I'm sure this picture speaks volumes about it. There's 4 out of the 5 people on the picture are young ladies. They are women. We believe very strongly in the company in terms of diversity and inclusion. I keep saying, unless we have 50-50% between women and men in any organization, only then we will see prosperity. Prosperity not just not in an organization, in a society, in a country, in any area. So the result is that we provide that opportunities to our women to make sure that they excel themselves. So I said, what do the people do? Where does this technology take us to? Through continuous innovation. And the continuous innovation, here are some very simple basic ideas we implemented at one point of time. It has grown leaps and bounds right now. We used to have something called the ideas tree in our organization, or not organization, I should take it back and say, in every center of excellence, every customer has an area demarcated, which could be 4,000, 10,000, 50,000 square feet. And typically, people have their desks inside, and there used to be security to clear them and so on and so forth. But once you enter the large facility, you used to have these empty walls. And so we came out with this idea called, we'll paint one of the walls as an ideas tree. And we put the post-it paper in the form of leaves right at the entrance for people to pull out a post-it slip, write their ideas, put it onto the tree. And what were we doing as leadership? We used to pluck the leaves every week, take them to the back office, process them. If they process the gate, if they pass the gate, they would change the color and come back to the ideas tree. Otherwise, they would get an email saying that your idea was not passed through by the committee that screened them. And as a result of that, we started monetizing the ideas. We started seeing red apples. Occasionally, we keep saying we saw green apples. They are rare, but they are the ones which provided more amount of monetization for us. This innovation has become a part and parcel of our DNA. People ask me, Mohan, what did you do in the last 30 years? And I keep saying 2 things distinctively I will take the credit for bringing to this company. One is we changed the DNA of the company to say quality is a part and parcel of our life. Quality cannot be negotiated. It should, actually, there are instances we surprise our customers with the type of quality we provide. The second one is we made innovation also a part of our DNA. We should continuously think about trying new ideas. That's how we have got a number of things that we do: open innovation, corporate venturing, mergers and acquisition. And innovation is not limited to product, it goes into process and business models too. And what did this innovation lead to? On the center of this particular slide, you see a nice picture, a nice artifact as you might like to look at. But actually, it is a cut section of an aircraft engine where we had enormous amount of contribution. I can't call it out at this point of time. There was as much as about 22% of innovation in this particular engine was by our engineers. 25% in designing this engine was by us. And this engine is on the wing of a very large aircraft manufacturer right now. So the result is that when you can provide that environment for people, provide the ecosystem for innovation, then the wonders would come out. They saved $75 million over a period of 6 years. And there are so many good things that have happened on account of this. And this is what really thrills me. We have 12 co-patents along with the customer. Let's move on in interest of time. The other thing is about the customer centricity. To me, customer is a king. A customer is a guy. I keep asking my trainee engineers, who pays your salary? And back comes the reply, company pays me the salary. I keep saying, no, company does not pay the salary. The customer pays your salary. So therefore, your allegiance has to be to the customer to the hilt. And we are paranoid about it. So end result is what we do is that we want to manage our customers' satisfaction. And we do it 3 times over, not once, twice, thrice. The 2 of them is here and now, a transactional feedback. Every time a piece of work goes to the customer, they evaluate, give it back to us. The second one is periodic. There's a manager to manager interaction that happens periodically. That's every month, every 3 months. But more importantly, we also use an external agency, Feedback Ventures. They've been working with us for the last 12 years, I believe, where they go and actually, if you look at customers, we've got about 300 of them. Each customer is not just one customer. There are a number of touch points for us, given the volume of business we do. So they go and interview about 1,000 of them on a set pattern that we have to measure how good we are in terms of our work. That translates itself into an index. And that index is the one which has to improve year on year. And that is what we call it as the customer satisfaction improvement plan that gets put in place thereafter. Equally important is you have to build this customer-centric culture. Pardon me, these are slides which are blurred, very purposefully done, I believe, because they were actually real information that was there. So understandably, the internal people were concerned. So they blurred it and provided, that's perfectly fine. But look at the type of culture that we have. We go ahead and look at the customer strategy and spend priorities. That's the one which will determine what work comes to us. You start mapping the relationship and you look at what is the value proposition the customer has, because you got to supplement and support the customer's value proposition, and you don't talk in the air. You talk very relevant stuff back to the customer. We also look at account structuring. We have account managers, we have sales managers, we have customer-centric managers, and so on and so forth. Why is that? That is how you build accounts. To give you a flavor, a data point, nothing more than that, is that we have a customer who is 21 years old with the company, and a single customer who gave us $1.4 billion revenue so far. And this is a $100 billion company. They have so many options to get so many suppliers to them. Why do they continue to be with us? Only because we create value for them. And that value creation will happen only when you have this customer centricity in terms of a customer account plan. Move on. In terms of strategy, the key thing is you need to decide where to play. Here is a XY diagram that I have with you, is that we constantly look at how is our winnability on one side, on the x-axis. On the y-axis is how attractive is this particular business to us. Attractiveness is primarily decided or derived from size, growth, and of course, in the recent past, the COVID impact. Winnability on the x-axis shows the current scale and the strength of offerings that we have. So if this is the recent origin that we have, and the size of the bubble shows the market size. And we are very strong in, say, utilities, geospatial, rail, aerospace, all these on the right-hand side. If you look at the whole blocks that are there, anything which is above the second block is very strong for us. Automotive is a very large bubble. We're too late in the game. So therefore, we are trying to pick up bits and pieces of it to see whether we can probably improve our winnability to move it to the right. So therefore, I think it is important that companies continuously decide. It's a constant thing. It's not one time. That's why I'm trying to emphasize right from the beginning, that it has to be continuous decision-making on where to play. Finally, all this will become true only when you have leadership. And leadership is not concentrated with one person. It's not momentary thing back again. So we talk about 6 different values that are there in terms of making sure the competencies that are there that integrate potential for an individual. And what I, as a founder of the company, as a guy who started this company with 4 engineers in my modest home on my dining table and grew to be where it is at this point of time, keep saying that the bottom 3 are the most important ones. You have to have ambition for excellence. Everything that I do, it has to be best and nothing but the best. I want to make sure that everything, even the way in which I dress, the way in which I write, I had to be the best. And that mindset of yours takes you to say, at work too, I have to be to the best. That's where you start moving people towards excellence. And you have to have the drive to be an entrepreneur. Everybody is not entrepreneur by designation, but you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset, which is ownership. I worked for companies too, but I never thought I worked for them. I always felt I owned them. That's how we developed this mindset saying that this is our company, and that's how you automatically get recognition thereafter. And the third one is that today we live in a world which is collaborative and partnership driven. So therefore, the three there are 6 of them as a characteristics of the leader, but 3 of them I like to call out, which made this company so different. Is one is the ambition for excellence, the entrepreneurial drive, and finally collaborative partnership. Where did we end up as we speak at the end of March 2021? I'm at 33 minutes, I believe. I'll finish off in the next 2 minutes. Here is what the company does. It's a globally sustainable Cyient. We did about, last year was a COVID impact year, but still I think we managed ourselves at about 4,000 crores of revenue. It shows in millions of dollars. And we did about 400 crores of post-tax profits. I think that's a reasonably good number for a sustainability that I talked about. 300 customers, 12,000 associates, with about offices in 19 different countries. That is the story of the company, where from 4 people in my modest home, on my dining table, where the story started 30 years back. Today, we are a global company. We operate in about 47 locations worldwide. We have, I think there are about 27 different nationalities of people who work for this company. Truly, what we did over a period of time is, being a technology-centric company, we drove all the elements that were required for technology, but made sure that we also built a sustainable company. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It's an amazing session. We really enjoyed everything that you said. You made a very, very compelling presentation on how tech companies are completely monopolizing the growth that we are witnessing, and that some of the companies with the tech disruptions, the average lifespan has come down. Currently, it is at 14 years. So these are stories which are still reverberating with us, and we will have lots of questions on this. But more importantly, sir, I must thank you for bringing out the customer-centric PPT strategies that Cyient is following, right from infotech age to even the current science stage. It's an amazing story that you have told us. Several learnings, and one thing which I will always remember is the people first thing which you have explained: fairness, integrity, respect, sincerity, and trust. These are the lessons that we will keep with us for a long time to come. And now, in the interest of time, I would request, without any much ado, my esteemed colleague, Professor R. Prasad. Professor R. Prasad was an entrepreneur himself before joining ICFAI. He currently heads the academic wing at ICFAI Group, and he has designed the latest online MBA program. He is a professor and mentor there, and he, of course, was from IIT Bombay and IIM Calcutta, and he has 3 decades of experience. I request Professor Prasad to join in and initiate the Q&A session. Over to you, Professor Prasad. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Thank you very much, sir. It's indeed an honor to have you with us. In fact, way back in 1993, you inaugurated a venture that I was in at that time. And, I remember that those days very clearly. You were in OMC then, and then started the journey which led to Cyient as it is today. We have a lot of questions. There are about close to 250 people who have registered, and about 75% of them have asked questions. So we have tried to aggregate it and, so that it is easy to respond to. The first part of it starts with your journey, sir. What was your goal during student life, and how did you adapt? At what point in life did you decide to be an entrepreneur, and what was the thought process behind it? This is the first one, sir.
Thank you, Professor Prasad. That's a very interesting question that you asked. Actually, in the interest of time, I need to be extremely careful about brevity. It's an interesting story. I keep telling people that in class 7, the marks that I got made my mother think that I would probably never finish off my high school. I was on the brink of a disaster. And the scolding that I got that evening, my mother is still around. I still remember that she said that she'll probably send me back to the village where I can go and do farming. And the other thing that she also made was very interesting, that I have a sister who's elder to me by a year, and she became a medical doctor. And she said, when she can come first in class, why not you? And that reverberated all the time in my ears. So why not me? What is wrong with me? I'm the same. I'm genetically the same. Environment is the same. Ecosystem is the same. So that was a turning point of my life. And by the time I graduated my engineering, I was a gold medalist in Andhra University. That's what I ended up with. But I think somewhere down the line, as I started taking a career, there was an ambition right from the beginning. I believe I still tell this one other story, that in the good old days, there used to be the largest machinery that you used to see outside, used to be what is called as a road roller. This used to be a 15-ton roller that laid roads at that point of time. So that was used to be a fascinating example for me to say, I would become a road roller engineer. I would build those road rollers. But I think, as life progressed into me, my passion grew to become an entrepreneur. I became a semi-entrepreneur. I started with OMC Computers. I was not the founder of the company. Professor Raj Reddy was the founder of the company. I was just the founder, CEO of the company. But then that is where slowly life started dawning on me. I asked this question to myself, what's the purpose of life? That's where I think the seriousness of entrepreneurship came into my mind. There's some way that you need to contribute. Linda Ellis' poem called The Dash, I don't know, some of you may be familiar. It says, you determine the day you are born. You don't determine the day of your birth. You don't determine the day you disappear. So when the tombstone comes up, there are those 2 dates. But between the 2 dates, there's a dash. And what does that dash mean is that contribution that you make. So I said, what do I do as a contribution? I never had intention of becoming in politics or social worker to contribute, but I thought entrepreneurship is a way of contribution. That's what drove me to be an entrepreneur.
Thanks a lot, sir. 2 of those questions will remain strongly. Why not me? Purpose of life.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. The second question is a supplement to it, and that is, if you could tell us how Cyient progressed across the value chain and what are the challenges that you faced, which you want us to remember.
As I said, there's a continuous need for excel yourself. There's a continuous need for you to say, the value proposition that I have is different from what I have in the past. My original objective of starting Infotech Enterprise in good old days was to provide engineering as a service to the global marketplace. But what we found in 1991 when I started the company, there were fairly large stumbling blocks. The Western world still thought elephants were roaming around in the streets of India. They were largely snake charmers who were there, not software engineer or design engineers. And they also had fairly large amount of aspersions about the IP protection in the country. But then we found a low end of the value chain where they did not think that there is a IP that was required. Is basically digitization as a service. But then, you look at digitization, the challenge that we had was it's a low-end service. It had a lot of manual intervention. Automation was not possible on those days. Even today, there are some limitations. But equally important is when you have manual intervention, the challenge that comes is when you want to scale, you can't have all the people of the same skill. It can't be dependent on skill. So the big change that we brought about to carry forward is an innovation which is to do with process. We laid out a process which was unique, a process which foolproofed any of the errors creeping in. Escapes cannot happen. The customer used to give us a SLA, a service level agreement, which said 98% accuracy of the maps. You look at the elements, they should not be missing, etc., etc. And what we were delivering to the customer was somewhere between 99.5 to 99.8. Customers used to get perplexed and ask this question, how do you make this happen? So therefore, what did we do is that point of time brought in process innovation. We did not lose sight of our engineering capability. We continuously looked at engineering. We started as thereafter in 2000, we got the first break. We got a break to provide engineering services to our customers. But then we did not stop there as an engineering services company. We said, ability to design, provide those services gave us right to play in the manufacturing market. What we designed, we said we will manufacture too. Not only that, we said, once we have a product, we also have the ability to service them. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. We said we have the ability to start. So therefore, the point I like to make is there are a number of things. I can go one by one, but equally, the important point I like to make is life is not stationary. It's an ongoing exercise. And today it's moving at a much rapid pace than what it is. You constantly you have to be ahead of the curve. So which means that whether it's process innovation, it's a product innovation, it is business model innovation, you continuously excel to improve yourself. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. I remember 2 points that you have mentioned out of this. One is that you need to keep differing from the past, and that you need to look at periodically. And the second is that when you plan for it, you need to be ahead of the curve. These are 2 things which will apply.
Absolutely. To me, past is, I keep saying this, Professor Prasad, the amount of time I spend on the past is like amount of time I spend watching the rear view mirror when I drive the car. I'm looking all the time to the front. Past is a few glorification. If you can't continue to bask on your past, you never look at the future. To us, it's future which makes the difference. And that's what made us different from others.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. More about the future than the past, though you do have it as a rear view mirror. The next is, this is more to do with others. Sir. You have also been with the CII in a leadership post. So, and of course, it has to do with technology, with all these advanced technologies and the realities taking business with digitization, digital transformation. How should the others in India approach this, and how can they measure their progress? Because this is extremely competitive, and each organization has its own challenges.
So I think every organization is so different. You can't have one size fits all. And what we have seen is that what we have been promoting, I sit on a couple of board, various types of companies that I sit on. I used to sit on, actually I left most of the corporate board now, is that today digitization or digital transformation has come to stay. It's a part and parcel of reality of life. You can't be absolving yourself. So what we certainly encourage every company to say that, create a digital roadmap for yourself. Because, it also, transformation cannot happen overnight. It will take time. That's understood. We need to shrink the time. And it also costs money. It's not that it just comes out, but you can't wait for it for too long. What we have seen is that the investments are much, much superior to the type of benefits that you get. So in terms of the return on investment, it's a very clear win-win situation for making those investments in terms of digital transformation. So irrespective of the field one is in, I think they have to look at what is next for us. As I said earlier, that it can be as mundane an area like agriculture today. I think the farmer has to become a lot more productive. He can't be spending so much of money on pesticide at this point of time. We have seen in a controlled environment that you can reduce the pesticide usage to the extent of 60% on a farm. So, and this was done by an exercise we did for a pesticide company. The pesticide company is moving forward at this point of time to say that, look, we should be the first to tell the farmer rather than somebody else comes and takes care of it. So and why we are not the domain experts in farming, but where is our expertise coming is our ability to design drones, the cameras, integrate them together and do the image processing and so on and so forth. So the message I have for the Indian companies is every company has to have a digital roadmap. They should think about timelines that are associated with that, progressively make that investments to transform themselves to become the excellent people, not just in India, but in the world. We should be known for that.
Thank you, sir. That's a wonderful example about agriculture and the pesticide. It actually starts at BAS tax. A lot of Indian organizations kind of fall in that kind of the spectrum. The other thing is about a very clear practical action about the digital roadmap, the timelines, and making of investments to move forward. The next question, sir, is about do you think it is possible that India will create companies of the size of Facebook and Google? If so, what is required?
Sure. Thank you, Prasad. I think you see the two things that you're saying. One is like Facebook or Google, and size you said. I have a feeling that it will not be the same what Google or Facebook will offer. I don't know the offering, but there will be companies which will come, which will resurrect themselves and become huge, absolutely. And India has the potential of creating them. So I showed you the companies, the 10 largest companies in the world in terms of market cap. If you look at the second position was Microsoft, and the fourth position was Alphabet. If you look at the market cap of those two companies, Microsoft is $2.1 trillion. Alphabet is about $1.8 trillion. Together is a $4 trillion market cap they have. And who provides the leadership for these two companies? It's Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai, two Indian CEOs. They can drive companies of that magnitude. And there is actually, if you look at it, since both Satya as well as Sundar took over the companies, an enormous amount of acceleration that's come to the company. So if you said, can India create one? The answer lies in that itself. Indians have created value. Indians have created two largest companies into what they are at this point of time. You require ecosystem. There are several other factors. I'm not diluting them in any form. But the fact is that you have the ability to create such companies. People have done that. So that makes me believe that we can still make some more from India.
Thank you, sir. That is indeed very encouraging. And it's a very, very open field from what you're talking about it. And the most important thing that you mentioned about people, you've also indicated that that is available. Thank you, sir. I think with this, I'll hand it back to Professor Sudhakar Rao for the next cluster of questions.
Thank you very much. So this cluster will focus on aspiring entrepreneurs or startups. So for the benefit of those startups, I think these questions were raised. So the first question I will go with is, how does technology enable entrepreneurial thinking? And how to evaluate the readiness of a technology and its market fit? And how do we decide on the business models?
So here's, I'm not contradicting myself. Here is something which is important for an entrepreneur. Don't look at your technology and then search for a problem in life. Don't look at a technology and look for an application for technology. If you truly are an entrepreneur, I keep telling people, look for a problem which requires a solution. So look for a real problem. Don't also sit down and imagine for yourself. There could be exceptions to this rule. There are a few which people said customers will require this. Apple is a very classic example. Steve Jobs felt that, look, I can integrate all of them and customers will take it. People did not believe it to start with. But the bottom line to me, that could be an exception. There could be a few exceptions. But the rule is that go search for a real problem. Then you then say, what's the best technology when technology I can apply to solve this problem? Because your solution has to be, as I keep using this word, distinctively different. It has to be unique, not for today, tomorrow, day after. So which means obviously you iterate and iterate to continuously to say, how will I be distinctively different from others? So thereafter, if you say, look, I understood a problem, I have a solution to it. Then you also look at what's the addressable market. If you say, I can sell it to my street, that's not good enough. I can sell it to my city, not at all good enough. I can sell it to the world, then it is yes. So the result is, it's not just a question of saying, I have a technology, therefore, can I find a market for it? No. Truly go back, look at a problem, find a unique solution to it, which has a large addressable market, and then build it, not once, of course, through an iterative process, build a solution which will last for a long time, and then you continuously refine it and re-refine it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that tip, that just because you have some technology, don't go and create a problem, but start with a real problem for which you can plug in a technology that will help you distinctively be different. I think that's the lesson today. Thank you very much for that response, sir. So moving on to the next one, what are some of the lessons that Indian tech entrepreneurs can learn from the West?
I think what the West has done so far is that they have put in an enormous amount of effort to bring up the skills of their employees or the associates, as we call in our case. Because where does technology come from is primarily because of people. So therefore, the raw material for technology to me is, you need to have labs, you need to have test facilities, etc. They are important, but they're still to me very secondary in nature. If you have the right people, you'll find enough of money. And honestly, even in India, I keep saying this. Money is not the limitation. It's the ideas which are the limitation. So what the tech companies have done in the West is that they've invested in people. And the second one that I would say is that the investment also came in from the governments. You look at some of the defense technologies that are there in the West at this point of time. They are so different. They are miles ahead of many other countries around the world, leave apart India at this point of time. The reason for it is that the government was willing to fund them, take the risks. It was not an enterprise which took the risk. So the result is that what have West done at this point of time is encourage people. I know actually I can call out because it's a fact of life. Pratt & Whitney, which is an aircraft engine manufacturing company, gave unlimited amount of money to their employees, as they would call them, to go and get themselves reskilled. So if he says, I'm going and doing an MBA, there are people who did 2 MBAs, trust me. People went back to school to get a master's degree. They paid for it. They pay for the tuition. So the result is, I think what West have done is encourage people to reskill themselves, upgrade their knowledge profiles. They have invested in terms of research and development. Research and development, again, for monetization. It is not research for research's sake. I also run a lot of academia at this point of time. And that is one of the message I keep telling people. Please don't do research for research's sake. You got to make sure that it becomes gainful at the end of it. It becomes beneficial to mankind. That's what the bottom line is.
Amazing. Don't do research for sake of research. But the lessons that you have mentioned to us is that invest in people, and people are the associates for building the organization. In their skilling, we should invest in their reskilling and upskilling. Amazing, sir. Thank you very much for that. And one associated question. How should the tech entrepreneurs deal with the tech obsolescence?
Good question too, Sudhakar Rao. Certainly, technology will become obsolete. In no time, they will all become obsolete. And the pace at which technology is moving, it will be obsolete. And the only way that you can do it is innovation. There are newer technologies that are surfacing. What's the reason why they're becoming obsoleted? Is because something new comes in. It can't be obsoleted just because of, it's there for a certain amount of time. It's because something new, which is a lot more beneficial, comes into existence. So therefore, I think the only way that these people can do is to keep an eye on new technologies which are evolving, and make sure you integrate those new technologies into your product offering to say that you are up in the curve. You're leading the curve rather than you're laggard behind.
Well, integrate the new technologies, keep your eyes and ears open. Sir, one more.
Sorry, Sudhakar, I'll also say one more thing here. I think it's important, is that what we are seeing at this point of time is more amount of open innovation. Don't get a closed mind to say, I know everything, I can do everything. You need to keep your mind open to say, I search for ideas around. I collaborate with people. We keep saying that one is open innovation, the second one is collaboration. Today, the whole world, the pace at which it's moving, it can't be that a single individual or a single company can do it. We need to collaborate with each other to make sure these offerings would come by. So it is true with even product entrepreneurship.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for building on it. Open innovation and collaboration. Fantastic. Sir, a little bit about marketing for these tech entrepreneurs that we have, the aspiring entrepreneurs that we have with us. There are lots of products, and most of them, some of them at least, do the same thing. What are the factors that can help the product stand out? As a new startup, what is your advice on how to make one's services different?
Whether it's a product or a service, Mr. Sudhakar Rao, I think the key thing that we have to look as entrepreneurs is about value creation. What is the value that the product, the marketing comes to me next. The first thing is your product has to be valuable to your customers. And there should be some way by which they recoup that investment. And therefore, it can't be, I've got a great idea. It's a fanciful product. You will not have many customers for it. The only thing that it can happen is if you can certainly create that value, then we find more number of customers. The way in which we have also seen marketing happen is that, and I think in some ways I reflected in the presentation that I did, is that you have to understand your customer very well. You need to understand what the pain points of your customer and provide a solution. That is where we are saying, what is the customer's value proposition to the marketplace? So I go back and say, in your value proposition, you plug me in. It is a beneficial outcome that you would have. You may pay me some money, but you will probably have a bigger outcome that's coming. So therefore, our ability to understand the customers and then understand, plug in our product or a service is the one which we creates value. And so therefore, what we do in our marketing effort is all the time trying to say how it is a value creation that we can do to our customers. And whether it is, segmented marketing, go to very specific shows, when there are real technical experts who are coming in, they certainly appreciate that there is a value creation that you could do. So what I would suggest to my technology entrepreneurs, whether they're doing product or service, is look at value creation. That's the key to me.
Great, sir. That's a great input. One last question in this cluster of questions for the startups and entrepreneurs. This question looks little different in the sense that we encounter failure many a time. What, according to you, is the fate of an entrepreneur after failure?
Good question, Sudhakar Rao. I'm a very strong believer that you learn out of failures. I keep saying you celebrate failures. You celebrate, learnings from failures. I use this very purposefully. You have a lot of learnings from failures. Because today, if you look at globally, and even if you look at India, it could probably be varied. There are several ways in which you can measure it. Is what is the success of entrepreneurship? It is somewhere between, typically there are no more than 5% of them who become stars. There would be about, say, 15-20% of them who will be also ranks, which means 70% of them will probably leave that and come away. But we certainly have seen that people who have done entrepreneurship have enormous amount of professionalism in them and knowledge with them. So therefore, to me, a failure is bad. I don't wish luck to people to fail, but if you fail too, you do not definitely get very disappointed. There's no denying there are fairly serious issues in our country, especially because you require also a social support. In India, if you failed once, you're considered to be useless. You're done for your life. I think we keep saying that, socially also, that's the reason why entrepreneurship has not come to become what it is in the Western world. It's changing, but I think failure should not be looked down in any way. People can succeed or fail. In failures also, they have a lot of knowledge that they gain. Make good use of it. That is how we will become a great entrepreneurial nation.
Great. If we learn from the failures and try to be professional and knowledgeable and bounce back, then we'll become an entrepreneurial nation. Great input, sir. Thank you very much. And I end my cluster of questions here and hand it back to Professor Prasad.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Sir, I'm taking away the points that you made about value creation and then understanding the customer, the value proposition. And I'm trying to pivot it into what higher education can do in India. And in this sector, what is your advice to institutions like us, as also to the students, given the kind of situation we are in and that change is fast? What would you advise us, sir? What should we do?
So from your perspective, Professor Prasad, what the world is moving towards is what I keep saying as the student-centric experiential learning. We have to become a lot more student-centric than what it is. I can go and talk about a very favorite topic of mine called Education 4.0, but I won't get into that. But the gist of it is basically the current times that we live, the student attention span has come down. Student has a lot of options. Student has ability to learn 24/7. So academic institutions and teachers have a completely different responsibility at this point of time compared to what was in the past. Therefore, from your perspective is that, we have tried out a few things in some of our IITs at this point of time. We introduced what is called as the flip class. We have fractal learnings, fractals, that is the courses are not 4 credit courses. They can do 1 credit in each course, like it, you move to the 2nd credit, 3rd credit, and the 4th credit. What I mean by flip class is that classroom becomes the homework, homework becomes the classroom. Classrooms are all dedicated for discussion rather than, one way verbosing. Classes cannot be, a teacher cannot speak for more than 12 minutes at a stretch, because after that, the attention span of the student comes down. So these are some of the takeaways that we have. But from the student perspective, I think what I think is that the whole world is changing, that students have become very holistic. Mechanical engineering, I told you earlier that, an automobile that I used to know of is different from the automobile today. I have to throw away, not necessarily today, maybe it'll take 5 years, 10 years for most of us to move into electric vehicles, given the type of challenges that we have with environment, pollution, etc. And so therefore technologies will change. So therefore you have to be holistic. So therefore it has to be, and what is it, if you look at even somebody's brand new car yesterday, and the whole keyboards have all disappeared. And everything has become just nothing but a touch screen. So therefore, and it's therefore user interface, UI, UX becomes important. And then, the social issues that are there. I keep saying technology is playing a very important role, even in legal systems. Look at tomorrow, there is a driverless car which meets with an accident. Hopefully not, but hopefully it can. So if it meets with an accident, then, whom do you blame thereafter? Is it the guy who actually bought that car? Is the guy who designed the car? Or the guy who gave the license for the car to go on the roads of whichever country it is? So therefore, the legal issues are also far different from what they were in the past. So therefore, what we should look at is that the students have become holistic. It has to be interdisciplinary. And lastly, I'll say, please let us also make sure that we don't distinguish between knowledge and skill. To me, both go hand in hand with each other. For some reason, we have, over a period of time, completely demarcated knowledge as a classroom knowledge. I'm a very knowledgeable guy. What do you know, boss? You know all to read and vomit that back into the exam. But you don't know how to build them. You want to do a good plumbing job, you require a plumber. I'm sure in 80% of those cases, we can fix it ourselves, if you are anybody for that matter. So the result is, please make sure that we probably have hands-on learning from every part of life, including we are saying children should know how to go and work, look at how the bank works. They should go to a grocery shop and how does people pair them up. So therefore, I think the last thing that I'm saying is that people have to definitely focus more on internships and apprenticeship schemes too, to make sure they learn before they actually get to do the job.
Thank you, sir. I think, you've covered a lot of ground there in terms of what we should do with respect to the curriculum, with respect to the approach that we take, as well as with respect to the student. What do you see as the relevance of online education in today's world? I mean, where do you see it going?
See, online education has come to stay, but it can't be just online at this point of time. It can be both. It has to be a hybrid education because we can't get away without the teacher. I don't know. I can't imagine. It's my, for sure, not my grandchildren, maybe their grandchildren. Time the teacher may disappear, but I don't think I can foresee that in my vision. I may be wrong. I've been wrong in a number of instances. I may be wrong in this too, but hopefully not. Teacher plays an extremely important role to me. But that does not mean the teacher has to be there. We can't go back to the Gurukul education where teacher was the centerpiece and all the knowledge rested with the teacher. So without even blinking an eyelid, I was watching the teacher teach me, transfer his knowledge to me. Today, I can have knowledge anywhere and everywhere. So the result is, what can the teacher do is to enrich. As much as we talked about in marketing, what did we talk about? Product, value creation. The teacher also, pardon me if I'm using marketing jargon, has to look at what is the value creation he does for the student. If he's saying, look, I will teach the same way as what I'm teaching, online teaching is not any longer that I have sit in front of a camera and then talk about things. I can't just have one way verbose. We need to have interactive learning. Can I make sure that my modules are 12 minutes or less? Can I make sure I can do a Q&A? I can continuously have a peer learning methodologies, evaluation. So therefore, the future to me lies in hybrid education. It has to be a combination both online and on campus. It could be online, can be synchronous, asynchronous. It can be variants of that. But I think all of them have to come to stay, and the West is believing in it.
Thank you, sir.
1 second. I would butt in. There's a small switch question I have for Professor Prasad, sir, with your permission.
Sure.
The question is, from what our guest, Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, sir, has mentioned, how is the new online MBA program that you have designed caters to some of these aspects, like student now becoming holistic, expectations are going up, the student has higher expectation because of 24/7 learning ability, and also the challenges of value creation and interactive learning, how these are probably designed as part of the program that you have just architected. Professor Prasad.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Rao. I've been making a lot of notes, and there is a lot of consonance is what is being said. I'll start with student centricity and the fact that people don't have time. See, the fully online MBA essentially caters to those who can't come to the campus, and particularly in today's world. Of course, it will be the majority would be working executives who want to upgrade themselves. So if you look at student centricity and student behavior, the first thing is the attention deficit, and they don't have time. So like, walk backwards and go and see an ad. Your learning material and what you do must be interesting enough for them to take it up. So if you're interesting during the first minute, they'll see your second minute. Otherwise, they will come and say that, we'll see it later, and try and do whatever they can before the examination, which is not what learning should be. So we've tried to keep all our nuggets between 2 minutes and 15 minutes in terms of whether we're doing, digitized interactive videos, or whether we're doing faculty sessions. What we record and keep, the nuggets are small. So that is the behavior aspect of it. The second aspect of it is that if you want, in an MBA particularly, if you want a working executive to listen to you, you need to bring in application. So we have an object model where it starts with the story, then it comes to the concept, and then it comes to a small activity. So these three things combined together, what we call micro learning married with the case methodology, is one strategy that we have used. The second strategy that we have used is the personalization angle that Dr. Reddy was talking about. And particularly a working executive, they should be able to bring their workplace and reflect on the framework that we are discussing. You may be discussing the framework with respect to a particular case or a micro case, but you should be able to draw the working executive's experience into that conceptual framework, and they should be able to share that, and that sharing then becomes common learning for all the others. And if there are a bunch of people who are doing it together, the learning is far more enriched. I think in brief, these are two strategies that I'd like to present at this stage.
Great, thank you very much. Can I now start the last cluster of questions?
Yes, Professor Sudhakar Rao, I do have a commitment at 8 o'clock. Yes. So therefore, I've been getting calls and physically to be there. So
yes. Yeah, we are almost concluding, sir. This is one question on sustainability. As we are all witnessing, the pandemic has forced many businesses, companies, to shut shop, or they've gone out of business. Some of them have slowed down also. How do Indian companies survive and sustain growth in such a scenario?
Good question, Sudhakar Rao. Certainly, pandemic was something which came as out of the bolt in the blue. It was a surprise. Nobody would have ever anticipated this. So the Indian companies had to size to this particular challenge, and some of them could face them well. Some of them have done very badly, not necessarily because of their incapability. Take the example of travel, tourism. These two T's for that matter. There's nothing that even you had the best of CEO you could have done. When said the aircraft cannot fly, you can't still sell tickets to people and make revenue for the company. The other way around is that in a current situation, can we make the best use of it? Is that we went ahead and started this new phenomena called work from home from the technology companies. And it has worked wonders, nothing short of that. Actually, it's working out, it worked out much better than even work from office itself. So therefore, the pandemic situation, everybody had to have their own strategies to make sure that they would survive. The first and the foremost is life, of course. Therefore, we all had to shut down. The second one is livelihood, to make sure that, we did not make any drastic actions in spite of the fact that there was stress in businesses across the various industries. We tried to minimize the stress back into the hands of our employees as much as possible. But there's still the hope is that that we will probably have the end coming at some point of time. So I keep saying that I think we need to understand the reality of life. Reality is that situation is still grim. People talk about the third wave or whatever wave it is, it will come because the simple reason that history tells us the pandemics never die down in one shot. They all go in waves and then die down. But I think still the optimism that we have in us tells us that, certainly at the end of it will come out successfully. So every company had its own strategies. And I think the companies which have been very sensitive have been still successful, even in spite of the challenges.
Great. Every company has their own strategy, and we should hope that the end is coming sooner. With that optimism and on this optimistic note, we will end this conversation, sir. I must thank you for this wonderful session. Your journey as a tech entrepreneur has come out as a masterclass on tech entrepreneurship in itself. Thank you so much on behalf of everyone who have joined today, and on behalf of the entire ICFAI group, and on behalf of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Mohan Reddy, and my esteemed colleague, Professor Prasad, I thank you for sparing this time and giving us valuable inputs, question after question. And I'm sure we're going to compile all these lessons and put it up on our website so that the readers, the viewers can go through and benefit from the same. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for patiently listening to this conversation. The pandemic is not over. We request you to take care and not make the third wave a reality. We'll try our best, although the pandemics will not go down in one shot, as our guest has mentioned just now. And we will see you next week at the same time on Friday, 6:30 p.m. with yet another
Congratulations. Congratulations, Mohan. It was an excellent lecture. Fantastic. I enjoyed every minute, and it is relevant to all 7,000 students and 400 faculty in our university. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Professor Prasad.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all of you.
Thank you all. I thank Mr. Kurmanath for joining and all other journalists who have joined. I see a very good presence today from the audience. Sir, thank you very much for your time and value creation for us in this session. Thank you.